a little different, man. Tonight is about session number 2. We call this the bloody mess. That's right, because it's all red. Most people don't understand that other than taxes, their debt is their biggest expense. And I want y'all to write that down. Taxes cause debt. See, in other words, this is very night we tackle the taxes. Well, if you don't get a handle on your taxes, property taxes, sales taxes, ad valorem taxes, luxury taxes, capital gain taxes, federal taxes, state taxes, inheritance taxes. See how that works? If you don't get a handle on your income taxes and your federal taxes, then it'll cause you to be in more debt. So tonight we're going to show you guys how the banks, your second largest problem is the banks, take a lot of money out your pocket in the form of debt. When I learned this changed my life. Interest is the penalty you pay for the right to own things in advance you cannot afford. Let me say this again. Interest is the penalty you pay for the right to own things in advance that you cannot afford. That statement changed my life. I had a totally different outlook on my finances when I heard that statement. Hey, interest is the penalty I pay for the right to own things in advance I can't afford. What that means is that trip to Disney I took way back in the early 2000s, or that steak, that meal that you bought last week that you're not going to pay off until 2 months from now. You got a special steak, but it costs you 2 and 3 times more. That vehicle that I purchased because I got a high or low credit score, high interest rate, I ended up buying 2 vehicles because it's really depreciating. It bothers me when people say, that's a depreciating asset. No, it's not an asset at all. There's really no such thing as a depreciating asset. And you'll hear some professionals say it. That's a depreciating asset. It's not an asset at all. A car is a liability. You see, so when you start learning these things and you see your money going out the window and you see banks taking advantage of you, you'll start to look at interest totally different. Interest is the penalty you pay for the right to own something in advance you cannot afford. So what you're saying is, I need something so bad that I'm willing to pay more for it because I need it right now. And I'm gonna give the banks some free money in order for me to get it. Woo, that's pretty serious. Now, let me say this before I bring up our special guest. And I'm gonna give you guys some testimonies after we do this worksheet. There is installment debt and there is revolving debt. Tonight, we're talking about revolving debt. Installment debt, there's nothing really horrific about installment debt. In other words, you have to have a mortgage. You got to have a place to stay. We just hope that the interest rate is really low. We're not saying everybody can afford to buy cars with cash. We're not being that insensitive. You may have to get a loan to get your car. We're just hoping the interest rate is really low. So installment debt is not a bad thing. It's nothing wrong with a few student loans. If you had to go to college and knock that out, if you have a job that's paying back the student loans in record time, that's installment debt. Mortgage, car note, student loan. What we're talking about tonight is your revolving debt. That's a problem. You got 3 or 4 credit cards, and before you even make the minimum payment, they're already charging you next month. And only a small percentage of your payment is actually going towards the principal. That means what you're saying is, look, for every dollar I give you, they lend you, you got to pay $1.30 back. That's when it gets out of control. So tonight we're talking about your revolving debt. Tomorrow we got a big secret. The day after that we got a big secret. And we're going to close with the biggest secret of them all. But I want you guys to buckle up, man. This young lady is earning residual income every single month. A lot of people understand income, but they don't understand residual income. They don't understand passive income. She's one of the best trained. She's been to more of our Game Changer quarterly events than a lot of people on this Zoom combined. When I tell you she's committed to the cause, she's committed. I've been to her home. I'm telling you, I want her to put her business out there, but she has one of the nicest homes I've ever been to on the planet in the DC area, the DMV. All right, man, Miss Tia, come off mute. How you feeling?
Feeling amazing. Can you hear me okay, Brian?
How can you find? As usual, Tia, you look the part. You ready to make this happen?
I am ready to make this happen.
All right, good. I'm going to be up there real soon, so I look forward to it.
I look forward.
The bloody mess. You ready to show people what credit cards can do for them if they're not careful?
Yes.
All right, here we go. New people, write this down. Your balance on this card is $5,000. That's what I want you guys to write down. I want you to write down your balance on this card is $5,000. Now, Tia, I'm going to hit enter when you say go. I want you to take it from here. Why do we call this the bloody mess? How much do they owe? And let's just say they went to, I don't know, a vacation to Disney World, took the kids. We know it's way more than $5,000. But let's say a few years ago, they got a $5,000 balance. What's next?
Okay. So let's say, as you said, Brian, that you owe $5,000, right? And so most people focus on that monthly minimum payment, right?
Yes.
What is the amount that you're going to have to pay every month? And people usually stop there. And so let's just say on that $5,000 balance, you're going to pay $100 a month. And that's your payment. You
mean to tell me the bank set this up, Tia? They act like they're doing you a favor. They say, hey, just give us $100 a month, and we act like they're helping us out, right?
Absolutely. And most of the time, the banks are even going to focus on how much can you afford to pay per month? And they're going to focus you on that minimum payment because they don't want you to know about this bloody mess that we're about to talk about.
Okay, good. So the minimum payment we're going to give them is $100 a month. We owe $5,000. They're doing us a quote unquote favor. What's next?
So then they're going to tell you what your annual interest rate is going to be, what's your percentage rate that you are going to pay back on this loan. So let's just say that's going to be 21%.
Cool. Now, Tia, from what I understand, let me come off you. Let's make sure we look at everybody in the eye on this one. 21%, believe it or not. Tia, have you seen higher before?
I have.
I've seen higher. Have you seen people with 2 and 3 and 4 of these?
Yes.
So believe it or not, the example that she's about to give you, I would say is conservative. Tia, would you agree that this is not most Americans? This person is actually doing okay if they got one credit card with 21%. Right. This is not most people, but I want y'all to understand what she's saying. 21%. So Tia, what happens now? What kind of math? This is where they kind of trick you on line number 4. What do we need to do?
Right. So here's where most people never calculate the monthly interest rate because most people don't even know that exists. Okay. So you got to take that 21% and you actually need to divide that number by 12 for 12 months. And so when you do that math, that 21% divided by 12 months, it's going to give you a percentage. Let's just say 0.0175 or 1.75%.
And that's the trick. Hey, Tia, that's pretty low. That ain't no big deal, is it? Right? That's the trick, Tia. That's how they hide the plain sight. 1.75 is the interest rate that compounds monthly because you keep carrying this balance over. All right, so we're on line 4. Now what do we do, Tia? We got that magical number. What's up?
Now you got that number. You're going to take that 1.75% and you're going to multiply it by that $5,000 that you originally borrowed.
And we're going to come up with, boom,
$87.50.
Now that doesn't sound like a lot, Tia, but if they notice, what is line 5 labeled? Okay, so that'll hit you different.
Your interest payment.
Whew. So of the $100, if I'm not mistaken, what do they have to do to understand what the principal is? The $87.50 you telling me is just the interest?
Correct. So you're going to take that $100 that you're paying, that monthly minimum payment that most people are paying, and you're going to subtract your monthly interest that's accruing, that $87.50.
Boom.
And you're going to get $12.50.
Okay. So now this is where I like to talk to people, right? We got to look them in the eye, Tia. Layman terms. For every 100 I'm giving you, $12.50 is going towards the 5,000. That's hard to comprehend, but guys, that's the way it is. And you got people with 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 of these. For every $100, what you're saying is, look, the bank is saying, I'm gonna give you 5,000, but for every 100 you give me, we need $87.50. Now $12.50 is going towards the 5,000. So what we got to do, Tia, on the next line, people don't want to do this math, but they got to do it. This is the most important math you can do.
Right.
How long is it going to take you at $12.50 to get to the 5,000? Line 7, your reality is what?
120 payments.
Whew. Everybody let that just soak in for a minute. That's what you're doing. See, if we take 120 payments, how many months is in a year?
12 months in a year,
You have
10
hereby
years
sentenced to 10 years.
for $5,000.
And you got more than one of these. This is why it's important that we hurry up and use lesson one. See, when we do these wealth worksheets, they cascade off of each other. You got to do lesson one to get the extra money from the taxes from the government. See, that's all the interest that she's saving. So Tia, let's add this bad boy up. If you sleep on this, the bank earns what?
$1,986.28
Off of the 5,000. So you end up paying back $11,986. The bank made a free $6,986 off your $5,000 trip that you went to in the early 2000s.
Yep.
This is what people miss. Tia, anything you want to add just about, your knowledge, your experience, your wisdom, your understanding? What do you do for a living, and why is this topic so important to you as a professional?
Sure, absolutely. I'm a controller, and I'm the CFO's boss, essentially. I'm the one who tells him or her how much money they can spend in the organization. So I manage the budget and all aspects of accounting for organizations. And the bloody mess is near and dear to my heart because, as I said earlier, most people focus in on that monthly minimum payment and they never add anything additional to that to help snowball that debt so that you're not in this position where the bank is capitalizing on you not understanding how to do this simple math. Once you calculate that and you see how much money you're wasting and sending to the bank, you can quickly change that scenario and pay that debt off and not get played through this bloody mess. So it is so important to educate yourself financially. And that is why I connected with the Extra Digit movement, because they educate you. And education, knowledge is power, but only when you apply that knowledge to your situation does it change the trajectory of your life. So this is awesome. And I'm telling you, you need to take this wisdom and not just listen to it, but apply it to your specific scenario today. Don't waste another dime not doing this math and getting out of debt.
Y'all see why I love it, man. Nah, y'all see why I love her. I love it, Tia. I appreciate it. And you did a great job. I mean, it's a very simple form, but you hit it right on the head, man. It's hidden in plain sight. And Tia said, I'm the CFO's boss. That means she's the controller of the funds. Tia, why don't they teach these things in school? Why isn't this like the number one thing they teach us our freshman year in finance? Why would they hire somebody? You got to have like a job like yours or get extra on this interest stuff. Why do you think it's hidden?
Because it's capitalism. It's a cash extraction cycle. They want you to stay in that rat race, in that cycle, so that the banks continue to earn the interest and the spread that they're earning on you not knowing this information.
That's it. And the longer they keep you in the dark, the more money they make off you. It's not some conspiracy theory. It's some guy in a smoke-filled room. I keep a little fake cigarette with me. Tia, it's not some guy in smoke-filled rooms and how can we get them? But what I do believe is that different institutions are put in place to take your and keep. And the longer you stay in the dark, the more people get to act like, the more people get to the fact that they're acting like they're doing you a favor and they're really not. So the bank is yeah, but your money's working for them through perpetuity. That's $6,900 extra. The bank takes that money and they use a concept called arbitrage. Arbitrage is where the bank can loan 10 times the money that they have on the books. In other words, if they have $1 million on their books, they can claim 10 million legally, ethically, and morally. If they have $100 million on the books, they can claim $1 billion legally, ethically, and morally. But I want y'all to put this in the comments. That's my money. See, when you gave the extra, the reason the banks can do it, everybody gave them, in this example, an extra almost $7,000. So the bank can say, hey, we have $1 billion on the books, even if they only have 100 million. The banks can say we have 10 billion on the books, even if they only have 1 billion. They're allowed to borrow 10 times the amount they actually have. When I learned this, Tia, I learned the game. the banks don't have any money. The
They
banks,
do not.
they don't have a dime. The banks have your money. That's why they penalize you if you touch it early. That's why they offer you a savings account with bounce protection. That's why you have a monthly maintenance fee. That's why they charge you for cashier's checks. That's why they want you to leave a certain minimum balance in, because they're loaning your money 10 times, even though your money's not there. That's why the banks hope and bank on the fact that you will not all come and get your money at the same time. Let me give everybody a quick education. Why do you think we call it currency? Because your money must flow. That's why it's called currency. Why do you think they call the land alongside of a river the bank? Get it? So the bank is actually responsible for stopping the flow of your currency. But when you become the bank, which is what we teach you in Extra Digit, and you become the currency and you got your money flowing in the proper channels, then that money flows back to you and you actually flip the game upside down and become what they don't want you to become, which is the bank. Just a little lesson I learned a long time ago to show you guys how money actually flows. Miss Kim Whitfield, talk to me.
I uploaded those documents like you're talking about, my 2 pay stubs, my last tax return, and they got $200 back into my paycheck a month. I took that $200 and I was able to pay off some credit cards. I paid off 3 credit cards initially, and I just paid off 2 more this month, so I'm all excited about that. But paying off those credit cards also helped my credit score go from a 646 to an 803. That allowed me, like Miss Tia Glenn, to be able to purchase my home for a 2.9% interest rate. The experts also helped me get that mortgage that was 30 years down to 12, and it's going to save me over $58,000 in interest that now I can use to invest in something else. So the plan, the take my money back off from the table, using the experts, not letting the banks take my money with the interest, it's game changer for me.